Hello, everyone. Welcome to one more session of the day 3, last day of the Makers Festival. I see that people are still joining. Probably the last session is just ending. So also let me know if you're in the previous session. Let me know if it's over already so we can know if people are joining, how it is going. I see that the number is growing. But just to everyone that is already here, okay, it's finished. So people might be joining. Today, we're going to be talking about leading the way, integrating net zero and DEI solutions within our network. So it's a conversation about walking the talk and integrating all these conversations in our operations. So today in this conversation with you, it's going to be me, Luis from the global team, and also Moni from Impact Hub Phnom Penh, and also part of the global team with us. Moni, if you want to say hi.
Hi everyone, so happy to see, I can't see, but so happy to know that your presence is here with us. My name is Moni. If we worked with each other before, you might already know, but for anyone who's new, my name is Moni. I am based in Phnom Penh, closely work with Impact Hub Phnom Penh as well as the capacity building team in DEI.
Yes. So today I'm going to be guiding the conversation on the net zero part, and Moni is going to be guiding the conversation on the DI part. So Stephanie is here with us. She's our tech host. So she's the one leading the presentation. So thanks, Steph. So today the conversation is a lot about like those two surrounding things that we have around our pillars in our roadmap. So yesterday, for those who were in the conversation of the Proaction Cafe, you saw that we mentioned this before, but I just wanted to bring here again what we're going to be talking today. It's about those two things that surround everything that is connected to our pillars in our roadmap. So for those who don't know, we do have a roadmap that was created in 2023 and is a 3-year cycle roadmap that it's going to be reviewed next year, because as you can see, it's until 2025, this first cycle, and then we have a review of that in the next cycle in 2025. So two things that are surrounding this conversation are a just transition, which is pretty much connected to the DEI conversation that we're talking about, and a sustainable transition, which is a lot connected to the net zero strategy and conversation that we're talking about. And that all is connected to our work that we're doing to impact, to increase, to influence, and to have better income in the network. So Steph, you can go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to start the conversation talking about the net zero part of this journey. Net zero, as you can see, involves dramatically reducing the greenhouse gas emissions a company currently generates. So basically, when we're talking, just to give you this introduction about net zero, when we're talking about net zero, we do have some steps to guide us on things that we need to do to reach this goal of becoming net zero. Some years ago, in 2022, our network, meaning that every single impact hub in our network, as part of our association, have voted for a motion that decided that our network by 2025 had a goal of becoming net zero. This goal is going to be postponed. So we first had this moment of approving the motion, and now we're reviewing what's going to be happening with this motion, but we continue with the goal of trying to become a net zero network. And I'm going to kind of like have a better conversation about that when we break into 2 rooms. Today, we're going to have to break our rooms where Moni is going to be focusing on the DI part, and I'm going to be focusing on the net zero part. And in this breakout room, we're going to be talking a little bit more about what the motion means, what it means exactly to become net zero, but also some work that we have been doing specifically with some impact hubs to start this journey. So Steph, can you pass to the next slide, please? So what does it mean to become net zero? As I was saying, we do have some steps that we need to think about. So it's about tracking emissions in every area of the business. So the business model needs to be very well understood for us to be able to understand what are the emissions that are surrounding every part of our operation. And here it's a really important conversation of something that since day one we have been talking about, which is creating data. So when we're talking about tracking emissions, it's about creating data, understand very deeply and very in every side of our operation the data about the emissions that we have in everything that we do. Because sometimes we forget that, for example, the website, the server where our website is hosted, for example, this is something that you need to consider as an emission that your business is having to the environment. Or the car drive that you take every day, or the bus ride that you take every day to go to the impact hub to work, this is also something that it's part of the emissions of your impact hub. So for the operation of your impact hub to exist, all these emissions, they need to be accounted, they need to be understood, and they need to you need to take action upon that. So after tracking these emissions, the idea is that you have a clear understanding of these emissions. So not just having the data, but also digesting this data to be able to act upon a better way of operating. Then to do so, you need to create a plan to reduce those emissions as much as possible. Because when we're talking about net zero, it's not just about you tracking the emissions, understanding your greenhouse gas emissions, and maybe trying to offset them. When I say offset, I mean you compensate those emissions. So let's say that, for example, with the data that I tracked, I understood that per year, my impact hub is emitting 200 tons of CO2. So I'm going to do some other projects that are going to offset or compensate this by, for example, investing in carbon credits or investing in forests around the world. This is not exactly what net zero means. Net zero means that from those 200 tons that you are operating with, the idea is that you can reduce those as much as possible, as close to get as close to zero. If you still have some part of this emissions that you cannot reduce anymore, then that's when offsetting comes as an option for your operations. And I say that just because for you to understand what's the difference, for example, between net zero and a carbon neutral business, for example, because a carbon neutral is this business that can offset or compensate the emissions, and then that's also fine, but that's just not the net zero meaning. And then finally, it's after you create the plan to reduce those emissions, you need to put this plan in action, basically. So it's kind of like you track your emissions, you have data, you have a clear understanding of this data, you create a plan to reduce these emissions, and then you act to reduce those emissions. So Steph, next slide, please. So here, I just wanted to kind of like put in a way for you to understand 4 steps that a company must follow on the path to net zero. First of all, it's measure and disclose. So something that is super important as well is not just to measure, but also to disclose this data, to be able to communicate why you're doing stuff, to communicate to others why you're doing and how you're doing, to be able to connect everyone that is in your ecosystem or everyone that is part of your community to also be able to support you, because you need to work with upstream and downstream when we're talking about, for example, your supply chain. And we're talking about members, we're talking about your suppliers for catering, for furniture, for events, all this kind of stuff. After you measure and disclose, it's important that you define clear goals that are measurable, that are achievable, that are time bounded. We also are going to have a conversation in the breakout rooms about this time lag that we have. So after you define goals, it's important that you develop strategies to achieve those goals. And to achieve those goals, you basically need to take action. So this is kind of like just a little framing of what we're talking when we're talking about the net zero conversation in our network. Next slide, please. Now we go to diversity, equity, and inclusion with Moni, and more to come in the breakout rooms.
I would like to say the same thing. More to come in the breakout room, because this is the only slide I have in this main room. In diversity, equity, inclusion is very similar to what Louise mentioned. In 2023 at the Global Gathering, we passed a motion, actually 3 motion, I believe, on diversity, equity, inclusion, which is gathering information, setting next step, as well as mapping out our community, which is why we have the DI mapping tool. In the DI mapping tool, which we're going to talk about more in the breakout room, will cover the mapping. After the mapping, also covering data collection, and at the end of the mapping tool process, we're able to reflect and set next action step. So some impact have might have done the mapping tool already, some have not. But today in the breakout room, you'll learn more about the different tool we have in both environment and diversity, equity, inclusion, and in what way do we use it for, what is the best way to optimize this tool, what is the best outcome from this tool, we will see together. But I would like to give the cue to Steph to prep the breakout room. And once you are ready, our amazing tech hosts, we can go to the breakout room. And I
Yeah,
believe
just to explain how the breakout rooms are going to work, because staff is already ready. But what's going to happen is we're going to have two breakout rooms. One breakout room is about the conversation on DEI. We're going to have the conversation of what has happened in DEI, more in-depth conversation with Moni and with the people that have been through this journey with him. And with me, you go to the conversation about net zero and our sustainability strategy, everything. You're going to have two rooms. You need to choose which room you want to go to. So we have already had some issues with breakout rooms before, so I just want to make sure everyone is aware of what's going to happen. After Stephanie clicks on we are going to breakout rooms, you're going to have 15 seconds popping up in your screen. And then if you are not assigned directly to a room, on this screen where you're seeing us now, you'll be able to choose between the two rooms. You choose between one of the two rooms. And also if you go to a room that it's not exactly the one that you wanted, you're also able to switch rooms. If you look on the right side of your screen, you can choose swap room. So if you're on Moni's room, for example, but you actually wanted to go to net zero, you can swap room. Same for in the other case. Please put thumbs up if you understood what I said. Or if you have questions, please post now before we press the breakout rooms to start, so we can still support you. I'm gonna give 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Okay, yes, sure, I can repeat. So we are going to be sent to breakout rooms now. No, don't need to be sorry. So we're going to be sent to breakout rooms now. If you are sent to breakout rooms directly, you can swap breakout rooms on the right-hand side of your screen if you are not on the right breakout room. If you are not sent directly to a breakout room, here on the screen where you see Moni and I, you can choose which one of the two breakout rooms you're going to join. But it's important that everyone joins a breakout room, because if not, you're just going to be here alone, not hearing anyone. So we're going to have a 30-minute breakout room now to hear from the experiences from other people in these two topics. All good? Shall we open the breakout rooms? Good. So Stephanie, I think we're good to go. We're back.
we are back.
We had some interesting conversation, and we would talk about that for more time. How was the conversation in your room, Moni?
There wasn't a lot, I would say, but there was conversation, probably internally. So maybe the main room is where they can share externally.
Nice. Is there someone in your room already prepared to share with us what you discussed in DI? In my group, no, we still don't have. So someone from my group, you can say like, I want to share, and then we can bring you to the stage to talk to us a little bit of what you heard in the group. Do you have someone from your group?
No.
Okay, anyone from each of the groups want to share with the other group what was discussed in your group? It would be nice to have some interaction. So we want to hear from the other group what happened there. And please raise your hand so we can bring you to the stage. Angie. Angie disappeared. Angie's back.
I pressed the wrong button. No, I think the conversation about net zero was really interesting. Things that really resonated with me was first the opportunity. Like I think as a network, we already know the importance of committing to net zero and actually measuring and like all the first steps. But I think what you said, Luis, about like a few of our competitors have already moved forward, but not everyone has, give us a really good opportunity. But also, it's an opportunity that will not be there for a long time. So we really, as a network, need to put the effort and the priority and the time to actually measure where we are right now and create those plans to reach out to reach net zero. And from the experience of the hubs, I think it was really cool, like how they were really honest with their journey, how they appreciated like the accountability that helped them to prioritize, um, how also like the motivation of the people that took the journey throughout the program really played to go through it. But also be understanding like there's a few steps and like they were mentioning like there's some information, for example, that you don't know and you will have it like the next year. Like it's not, we know that it's not a like a short term fix, it's a process. But I guess that these hubs were really good at starting betting those capabilities. And you know, as we do HR, as we do finances, as we do other things, and they become part of our day to day, like being like all these four steps in net zero, but they should become also like a really basic mainstream part of our impact hubs. And that's like the only way we were actually going to keep on moving forward. Um, yeah, and I also like we at the end we were discussing about net zero and like you know all the meanings around it and actually what is achievable, which I think it's also very important conversation to have. And that was it.
Yes, super, super. Thanks, Ange. That's what our conversation was. Thanks for summarizing that. Something that also like it's important to say is that the impact hubs that they were sharing, the journey in the beginning when we thought about the journey, we thought about like, okay, we can do this journey in 2, 3 months. We have been 6 months together doing this journey. I have been working with those 10 impact hubs like every month. Every month we have been learning things together. We have and we also said that in the group that it's kind of like no one has the right answer for everything that it's related to net zero. This is a learning journey for everyone. So that's why it's also a call for action for everyone to kind of like start the journey. If you haven't started yet, I think I have another raised hand. So also you can join. But I just wanted to say that like yes, if you haven't started your journey yet, it's important to start the journey. We're here to support as a global team. I'm here also to kind of like to support on understanding what are the steps. That's what we have been doing with the 10 impact hubs. But yeah, taking the first step, it's kind of like the first journey to understand also how to allocate the right budget for that, the right capacity, because it's the only way of achieving stuff. If we keep the the things as they are, of course we cannot move forward. So that's why we need to plan also to take action, and to take action it requires kind of like money, capacity, time for all of us. Elena.
Yeah, maybe just very one short comment because it really comes from my heart. But of course, it is an opportunity, but it is a real need. We have to take our responsibility. We can look at it at the financial perspective. Of course, we will position much better on the market, but we have to walk the talk and enlarge our concept of impact and taking care of the impact we really generate on the environment. So for me, this is the storytelling I would like to say, I would like to spread when we talk about this topic and to stop delegating. Sorry,
Super,
just the
thank you so much.
invitation. Thank
No,
you.
it's really good. When we talk about it, we need to see it as an opportunity but also as a risk, because if we don't take action, it's also a risk for our business, and not just for like us as humans, but also for our business to continue working. So yes, thanks, Elena. Moni, how was the conversation on DEI?
The conversation is pretty much on how investing in DEI there is something that we can get back out of it. So a lot Rashi share a lot into her experience in the coaching and the mapping tool, what outcome has been out of since, because Rashi finished and Impact Hub Kathmandu finished the mapping tool in beginning of this year, and it's almost the end of the year now. Crazy. Merry Christmas, everyone. And seeing that all of these um, impact has been coming out of the fact that it's almost been a year is just um, proving to prove pretty much is that investing in diversity, equity, inclusion is there will be benefit in return. It's not just a charity work. It's not just a donation work. It's not just something that we do out of pittiness. But diversity, equity, inclusion work is valuable, and it's a part of our core and inspiration. Now, I believe, although we went to breakout room and talk about separate conversation, we are going to bring the topic into conversion. What is next for us, Louise?
Yes. So what we wanted to bring, as we don't have a lot of time, what we wanted to do with this session is also spark a little bit of the conversation of net zero, what has happened, DI, what has happened, but also how those two, they are interconnected in the end of the day. Because we cannot just talk about sustainability or inclusion without connecting both of them. And I think that's important as well when we're talking, for example, of what Elena and Rachana are saying in the chat of like the interconnection of everything. This is connected to all the departments. This is connected to the way that we do stuff, the way that we walk our conversation. So we also wanted to ask you, Steph, if you can go to the next slide. Thinking about the intersectionality between sustainability and diversity, equity, and inclusion, what are some common grounds between net zero and DEI? And I want you to put on the chat because we want to understand what do you see as kind of like the intersectionality between sustainability and DEI. And I just put in them as in two different boxes that we are either acting, okay, I only have time now for sustainability, or I have only time now for DEI. What do you understand as intersectionality between sustainability and DI? And there is no right answer or wrong answer. Please put on the chat your thoughts so we can understand.
Let us know. I think when I talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, I'm not just talking about diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm talking about also a lot of things together. And there is an intersectionality between net zero and DEI. But in a way, we just have to, I would say, look into the lens of intersectionality, and you'll find so many things that ties it together. And without sustainability, there will not be DEI, and without DEI, there will not be sustainability, because it all goes together, I would say, simultaneously.
Yes, I see here it's culture of practice for both of them. And inclusion is making climate action something we all can take on. Equitable access to resources and inclusive innovation and sustainability. Yes, if I would share my thoughts on like what's the intersectionality, I also see as like this opportunity. We cannot make a change, a sustainable change, just for those who can access it. We need to give access to everyone, and that's the role of Impact Hub on mapping the under represented communities, how to bring them to the table, to the conversation, and make this transition everyone together. So we also have here social equity and environmental impact. It's absolutely necessary and can both should be incorporated in the organization culture and policy. Inclusion and sustainability choices both need deliberate efforts and both need community engagement. Super good. So now we go to the next question. Steph, please. Inculcating equity within organizations, yes. For the next question, please continue sharing with us. But the next question is, why do you think it's important to talk about this intersectionality? Like, why do you think for us as impact hubs, this is so important to be focused not just on DI or on net zero or on sustainability, but to be focusing on this intersectionality?
And I want to share one thing that's very practical and very like currently happening right now, right? In net zero and DEI, who's facing the most hardship in climate change is indigenous communities, who's facing most hardship in climate change is people who living under poverty. You know, when heat, what, that's not correct English, when it's hotter, when it's hotter, people who doesn't have aircon, people who are not afford to be in a house um that is cold, you know, they have to go through these hardship of climate change and still have to go to work every day. And this is happening right now as we speak in my country, in my province. When there is climate change, agriculture is difficult. People who depend on agriculture, indigenous agricultural practices, have to change. This is happening as we speak right now, and this is why we are bringing the conversation together between environment and DEI, because one cannot go without the other. And
Yeah. And then seen here on the chat, it's to be respectful towards both planet and the people living in it, so that we leave no community behind, building greater solidarity across the movement. And Lena said that's sustainability, interconnectedness that need to be addressed comprehensively, bearing in mind capacity, time, and costs. Of course, yeah, this needs to be definitely also considered, and that's why like planning is super important, so that we don't waste time or waste money, but we do the correct things with what we have and we plan for that. Holistic understanding of inequalities. Um, Maria said long ago, we should call our action climate justice, recognize the disproportionate impacts of climate change on low income communities. The more we talk about it, the more conscious we are. Totally agree. So this is a really good bridging to the next and last slide, as we only have like 5 more minutes to finish. What we want to have here is from the conversations that we just had here and in the small groups. Can you write on the chat what is the next step you see on your hub that your hub needs to take to move in each one of those topics? What is the next step that like you can say now? Okay, I want to take action in this intersectionality. I want to take action upon better position net zero impact hub, a better position diverse and includable impact hub. What are those actions? And we want you to write down, because this is our way also of harvesting and understanding what is the thoughts that are coming from this session. So this is our final moment. It's our final question. Really would love to hear, what do you see? And it's different in every impact hub. As we saw, we have impact hubs that have already started the net zero journey, impact hubs that are still starting, same for the mapping and creating targets for DEI. So what do you see your impact hub role? What's the next step for impact hub role to take action in each one of those? Maria said that like for every impact hub is to set targets. That's the next step. How do you see in your reality, your impact hub? And we are gonna let the 5 minutes for you to write to us. Let us know. This is a nice thing. We have a partnership with Good Wings. We do have different partnerships in the network to be used. So for example, use Good Wings for traveling to make measurement easy. This is something that Angie, she's from the global team. So this is something that like on her travels for the programs, for example, this is something, one action that you can start taking. We have created practice to ensure everyone is involved. So Lagos is trying to make everyone in the community be involved. Can you share with us a little bit of those practices, Gloria, as well? Would be nice to share with the rest of the group on like how to bring those voices and include them in the conversation. And if we're talking about sustainability, including everyone. For Lusaka, completing the DEI mapping and spend more time on the intersectionality. So yes, super good. First step, complete the DEI mapping. Second step, see how you can start also the conversation of the sustainability to have more intersectionality. We would love to have more of Impact Hub Lusaka on mapping emissions and being up as well on the net zero strategy. For Kathmandu, drafting the DSI policy for Impact Hub Kathmandu, super good. Impact Hub Kathmandu have already been, for example, in the journey for net zero. So they are now in the next step of creating the policies. For Zanzibar, we're just starting at Impact Hub Zanzibar. And I think for each realistically setting targets and making sure it is integrated in our business planning and programming, super good. for new impact hubs, that's kind of like the main message that we have. It's like start already with the right food, because that's the best way of starting. Um, from Impact Hub Kathmandu as well, we have started a net zero guideline and waste management policy and advocated for net zero approach in our recent AGM. Also, yes, that's, as I said, Kathmandu has already been working on creating the targets, mapping the emissions. So now it's kind of like the next steps. Still from Kathmandu, making deliberate effort to implement projects that cater to marginalized communities. So yes, super important. Kathmandu has also already worked with the mapping for DEI. So they are now in the next step, which is how to then work with these marginalized communities. They already understood. Same with like DEI and net zero. You already understand your environment. You already have the data. Now you can act upon that, create targets. And then for Trento, to get ready to collect data for the financial year of 2024 and test the climate targets that Impact Hub Trento has already created also in this journey. So for everyone, thank you so much for participating in the conversation today. Just one more from Riyadh. To just take a step forward, it was really reassuring to know many hubs struggling with collecting data to start the net zero mission. Yes, and that's why we are a network to support each other on this, and to know there is no one way or right way to start the journey. Super good. We are hacking progress to push behavior changes, drafting policies and practices, and also working with members. So that's the practice that Gloria was sharing on how to bring all the voices to the conversation. So also, if you want to know more, connect with Lagos. Thanks everyone for the conversation today. If you have any other questions or if you want to continue the conversation, Moni and I, we are here all the time. Not all the time. We sometimes sleep, but we're here always to support you with this journey. So send us a message. We are super happy to help you with the DEI journey, the net zero journey, and to connect you also with the impact hubs that have already been in this journey. For the next session, we have another session starting now. Steph is going to share here, but we're talking about the new economy. So like how we can act more in this new economy, and we're bringing an external person, Pamela, to talk to us about it. So this is also a way of taking action. Also check the knowledge space. There, I also wanted to just share this link. If everyone can click in this link now, please. It's a really good link. It's the knowledge space for environmental action. So everyone, if you can click and check everything that it's there after the session, you have like 2 minutes before the other session. So please check the environmental action page on the knowledge space. Moni, if you have the DEI one as well to share, people can check it. But there you go. Thanks everyone. See you in the next session. There you go. DEI is here. Carol just shared it. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you so much, everyone. You can find us also on the community platform and the knowledge space. You can search our name, and we're also on Slack in the makers. You can also search our name on Slack to find us. And if you want to contact us via email, just put, oh, my name is just Moni, but I believe your email is Luis dot your last name and at impactup.net, right?
Yes.
There you go. Promo. Hope to see you all in our inbox. Thank you. And thank you so much, Kathmandu team, especially for staying up like late evening for this session. So thank you.